Joining us here tonight is the author of a two-part voluminous commentary on Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, historian and author Dr. Vikram Sampath. Vikramji, thank you very, very much. My first question is Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, Mahatma Gandhi's murderer, as Asaduddin Owaisi is calling him. This is a day after Rajnath Singh and Mohan Bhagwat extolled the virtues of Savarkar and his tactical acumen, his foresight, his vision of a united Ek Shreshth Bharat or India from Sindhu to Sindhu.
Yeah, thank you, Anand. It's always such a pleasure speaking to you. I think nothing could be farther from the truth. I think it's all being done for political purposes. For 1 year, there was the Red Fort trials that happened in 1948 when Savarkar and others were put in jail. And the Court of Justice Atma Charan actually went through all the documents, all the evidences. The prosecution tried to build a very strong case, but it could not. At the end of 1 year's trial, among all the 9 people who were accused, other than the police approver Digambar Badge, it was only Savarkar who was honorably exonerated by the court. Not because, as is made out, lack of evidence, but because there was no evidence. Of course, Nathuram Godse and Narayan Apte were his followers in the Hindu Mahasabha, but that doesn't mean the leader of a party is responsible for what one of the party workers, does on their own accord. Which is what Godse even said in his testimony in court. Now, a couple of decades later, the Kapoor Commission was established to actually not reinvestigate the whole case or to come up with Savarkar's role or anything. It was just on a completely different basis. And but then even there, all through they say a Savarkarite faction within the Hindu Mahasabha was responsible for the assassination, which was true because, as I said, Apte and Godse were adherents of Savarkar, but without any corroborative evidence. Finally, the commission report actually says, hence, there is no doubt that Savarkar was actually behind the murder. They actually did not even call the chief witnesses, Appa Kasar and Gajanan Damle, who were the secretary and bodyguard of Savarkar, on whose basis the Bombay police had built the case against him. That, when Godse went to meet him, he said this Yashasvi hoon ya and come back and all that. So, and moreover, a commission of inquiry does not have the power to overturn the verdict of a court. And so, as late as a couple of years ago, one Dr. Pankaj Phadnis, he filed a PIL in the Bombay High Court, which got rejected. Then the case went to the Supreme Court of India, and the Honorable Supreme Court appointed an amicus curiae, which sat on all the papers, the Kapoor Commission, the Mahatma Gandhi trial, documents for 1.5 years. And at the end of it, someone none less than the former CJI, Justice Bobde and Justice Nageshwar Rao in 2018, March 2018, they gave their verdict that the contention of the petitioner, Dr. Phadnis, that the Kapoor Commission implicates Savarkar is actually completely erroneous and that he's been honorably exonerated, and the court's verdict actually holds. So I think when the highest court of the country exonerates someone, it's very unfortunate that a lawyer like Mr. Owaisi actually disregards the highest court. It can be contempt of court against him for making such statements, and just for political purposes and so on, brings the legacy of a patriot into contestation. He can actually, Savarkar's family can well go ahead and file a defamation suit against him for this kind of.
Well, Ranjit Savarkarji, if you're watching this, well, you know what to do. But the fact is that a barrister like Asaduddin Owaisi has challenged the verdict and the wisdom of the Honorable Supreme Court of our country. But Vikram, there is also this narrative to deify Gandhi and vilify Savarkar. And some of those loyalists and some of those who are at it are also somebody whom you've been engaging over the last few days on social media. I've got a lot of attention. But let me ask you this. Standard lines, your thoughts on this? He apologized to the British. He wanted Hindus to join and fight with the British in the army for the British. Your thoughts?
So, well, I mean, I think I've explained it, for infinite number of times,
Yes,
but
you
then
have.
it just doesn't help because politics keeps coming in all the time. I think the petitions, I don't call them mercy petitions, they're petitions which were a very normal process, a normal, procedure which several political prisoners were given, the right to. The leaders of revolutionary movements, whether it was Barin Ghosh, the brother of Aurobindo Ghosh, Sachindranath Sanyal, all of them filed petitions at cellular jail. It was not as if Savarkar himself was given some extra privilege, but even when the British, officer Reginald Craddock comes to meet him in 1913, he records in his official noting that Savarkar expresses no regret or remorse for whatever he did. Most of his petitions, I've included them in the appendix to my book. They're not at all an apology. It's more like demanding what is my right as a political prisoner? Do I have some rights, concessions? Some going out into the settlement and bringing family along, and not only for himself, he was also acting as a spokesperson for all the other, political prisoners who are young men, did not know the British law and so on. So in the 1917 petition, he says that if my name constitutes an obstacle to the release of all the other prisoners, you delete my name and release the others.
Yes.
And that will give me as much pleasure as my own release would do. So making it very clear that he was seeking a general amnesty for everybody. Now, this current controversy, I think the defense minister made some statement that it was on Gandhiji's advice that he wrote a petition.
Yeah.
Savarkar filed several petitions right from 1911 onwards when Gandhiji was not in India. He came back to India only in 1915. But in 1920, when 10 years had passed, and after the World War, when the British gave the Royal Proclamation releasing all the political prisoners under a general amnesty, only the Savarkar brothers were not released because they considered them as a D category, the dangerous category criminal. And so because of that, Savarkar's younger brother, Narayan Rao, actually reaches out to Gandhi, can you please help? And Gandhi writes a letter to him dated 25th of January 1920, advising his brothers to file a petition that he will also put in a word to the British. And 6 months later, in Young India, on 26th of May 1920, Gandhiji writes a long article of 4 pages titled The Savarkar Brothers, building a case for their release. Saying, they were misguided. Now they want to come to the mainstream. Now the constitutional reforms, the Montagu-Chelmsford has kicked into place. And so they want to join the mainstream. So they must be allowed to do that and so on.
Yeah.
So if petitioning was such a bad thing, or it was about groveling, then Gandhiji himself, wrote a petition on their behalf. He made out a case on their behalf. So next, will the goalposts change and say Gandhiji was also a stooge of the British? I don't know. In this country, anything can happen with history. So I shudder to think whether that will be the next accusation anyone is going to make.
True, but then let me ask you, was Savarkar a patriot? Was he casteist, or did he want to do away with the caste system? And do you believe, especially post-independence, there is an effort to perhaps distort what Savarkar was, what he stood for, what his ideology and thought process was, and somewhere remove Savarkar from the historical consciousness of this generation?
Nothing would be farther from truth, Anand, that here was the father of Hindutva who was actually advocating a completely casteless society. In the 13 years in Ratnagiri, it was not just eradication of untouchability, but a complete elimination of the caste system that he not only advocated, but also led through action. And, the social reforms he undertook there were praised even by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. But then, despite all of this, despite being a revolutionary who formed India's first secret society, the Abhinav Bharat, organized the first, the bonfire of foreign clothes, for 5 years in Europe, the kind of revolutionary movements that all of them did. He gave the 1857, what was called as a Sepoy Mutiny, some amount of, prestige by elevating it to the first war of Indian independence.
Yes.
He wrote an entire book on it. And the amount
It was the
of
same year
suffering
that Gandhi
he and
wrote Hind
his entire
Swaraj too,
family
1909.
underwent,
Yeah.
the kind of sufferings he underwent in cellular jail and all of that. Despite all that, for petty contemporary politics. It's very, very sad that we drag the legacy of patriots like him, who were unalloyed in their nationalism, in their desire to see India free from the British yoke. And for today's contemporary squabbling and politics between political parties, you drag a man who's not here to defend himself and tarnish his reputation. And I think that nothing could be worse to do to a person, and particularly in the 75th year of our freedom.
Yeah, and for somebody who's done exhaustive research of over 5 years and read every document and perused every other proof which is there to try and write that very, very long but very, very informative and exhaustive commentary on Vinayak Savarkar, that emotion is well felt. Vikram Sampath, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for taking the right stand.